Welcome to lesson 18 of learning New Testament Greek. We continue through the prologue to John's Gospel and we're up to verse 17. John chapter 1 verse 17. John chapter 1 verse 17. Hoti honomos diamoseos edothe he charis kai he aletheia dia Jesu Christu egenetor. Again, egenetor is a very common word in this prologue to John's Gospel, and we find it in Genesis chapter 1. God said, "Let there be light," and light egenetor. So this is all part of the echoes, the repeated echoes that John has incorporated in his prologue, echoes of Genesis chapter 1. So here's our letter by letter translation, this time done with a thinner pen, so I hope it picks up. Hoti ha nomos diamoseos edothe he charis kai he aletheia dia Jesu Christu egenetor. So now our letter by letter, our word by word translation. Hoti, because the law through Moses. So this is Moses, but the ending indicates a genitive ending going with dia. Edothe. So this is a new word, I think, was given. The e at the beginning indicates a past tense, and the th is a characteristic of passive, so was given, and the a ending here is third person singular. The law through Moses was given, and this is common in the Bible to use a passive to avoid too much use of God's name. The law was given. It was actually given by God through Moses, but we simply say was given. We omit the subject, God. He charis, the grace and the truth through Jesus Christ came. So I think nomos is a new word. Don't confuse this with onoma, name, which we've had, but this nomos means law, and from it we get words like astronomy and economy. So astronomy is the law of the stars, the way the stars go, and economy is the law of the way the economy runs. It's interesting to note that we had charis kai aletheia in verse 14, but in that case it had no articles. In verse 14 it just said charis kai aletheia, grace and truth, but here it says the grace and the truth. Exactly what difference it makes is a little bit hard to judge, but perhaps the controlling influence is because it says honomos, the law, and so now it says the grace and the truth. So these things are set up in contrast, the law of Moses and the grace and truth of Jesus Christ. Otherwise it's not really quite operating the same as the English operates. The rules in both English and in Greek for when you use the definite article the and when you don't are quite subtle and difficult to explain, and sometimes for a non-native speaker difficult to pick up the subtle changes in meaning that might be involved. So yeah, now truth. So of course to John truth means truth, as we say in English, but it does have a secondary meaning, which I brought out in verse 14, faithfulness. Just the other day I was in a store that was playing 70s music, and they played the Anne Murray song Snowbird with the line, "The one I love forever is untrue." So there we have the word true and untrue, meaning unfaithful, true meaning faithful. Be true to me, I say to my wife or my girlfriend, so that means faithful. So we see how the English word true also extends to the meaning faithful. So I think really in this case John is intending both. So truth, capital T, as opposed to falsehood, and also truth meaning faithfulness. So what have I put here in my translation? God gave the law by the hand of Moses. So this is dia Moses, so that we could translate that through Moses. I think in the past I've translated it by the agency of Moses. Here I've written, just for a variation perhaps, God gave us the law by the hand of Moses. Dependable kindness. So again I've used kindness for charis, and for aletheia I've written dependable. So that to me is the most important part of the meaning, although of course my translation has left out the other part, truth, capital T, which of course we can't rule out. But apart from making your translation very long and clumsy, it's perhaps we should go for the most important part of the meaning, which is what I have here. But this is really why we learn Greek, because every translation falls short, every translation stumbles or errs or falls short, no matter what your translation methods are. So this is really why we learn the Greek, and we can see that there are two meanings to this word. My translation gets one of them. And again, I've written by the hand of Jesus Christ. I think this is the first time in the Gospel that we've had the name Jesus Christ. Previously, John has just talked about the Logos. It's interesting first to notice how much the name has changed coming into English. Jesu, and so the root form is Jesus. So we get Jesus. So it's changed a bit, particularly with this J sound, which is found in English and came to be used with this letter, which this letter developed as just a variant of I, the J, and then it became used in English for the J sound that we have, and so this name came to be read Jesus Christ. But of course that sound is quite foreign to the Greek or the Hebrew behind it. This in fact is the name Joshua. Jesus, here Jesu, this is the genitive form of it, but the base form is Jesus, is just the Greek form of the Old Testament name Joshua. So we find that in Acts 7:45 and in Hebrews chapter 4 verse 8, where Jesus is used referring to Joshua. So it's quite interesting that when you read this in Greek, and even more so in a Hebrew translation of the Greek back into Hebrew, this actually says through Joshua the Messiah, Yeshua HaMessiach. That's how it comes out in Greek. In Hebrew, so Christu, like Messiach, means the anointed one, the anointed king. But we can see how the flow of this verse goes a little bit more smoothly when you realize that the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Joshua, who of course was Moses' successor. But we're not talking about the Joshua of the Old Testament, we're talking about the Joshua, the Yeshua, as Messianic Jews call him today, in their pronunciation of that ancient Hebrew name. referring to now to Jesus Christ, came through Jesus. So there we have it. Just one more point again, this hoti at the beginning, and again I've left it out because it seems to me a bit too formal to say, for God gave the law by the hand of Moses, and the link in English is just commonly expressed with no word, but the link just follows on as we read it. God gave the law by the hand of Moses. And I'll put here a semicolon because, again, the original Greek had no punctuation at all, not even word divisions. But the editors, later editors, have put a comma here, but they never use the semicolon, which I think is appropriate here. Otherwise, we could leave the comma and put something like but. But what I've done is I'll put a semicolon. God gave the law by the hand of Moses. Dependable kindness came by the hand of Jesus Christ. So my translation has perhaps lost a little bit of the balance of the two parts. But again, that's why we learn the Greek. Hoti honomos diamoseos edothe, he charis kai he aletheia, dia Jesu Christu egenetor. And what a valuable thing that is.